Last one. Life according to Keith Richards. Mother Nature knows best how to welcome Keith Richards. The afternoon is warm and sunny. Minutes before Richards is to be interviewed at his manager's office in downtown Manhattan, a veritable Keith shrine with posters and pictures on the wall and a director's chair with his name on it, ready for him to be seated. At the top of the hour, the clouds darken, the door swings open, and the grinning Rolling Stone arrives. Unlike Mick Jagger, Richards has never been knighted, but he can claim honors in the world of letters. Nearly 30 years after Jagger gave up on writing a memoir, alleging he had forgotten everything, Richards, 66, has emerged as a best-selling author who seems to have retained it all. Another feather in my cap, he says, with his smoke-ringed laugh, lighting up the first of several Marlboros. It's been a much harder journey than I suspected. At first, it was like, oh, sure, I'll tell you everything. Oh, sure, I'll tell you anything, without realizing how things connect together and the effect they have on you. Hey, it's not easy to relive the death of your own son, Tara, who died in infancy in 1976. Old wounds are opened here and there, only to heal them. Co-written by journalist James Fox, Life topped the bestseller list on Amazon.com even before publication in November. Richards has received a rave, achingly, emotionally direct, from the New York Times. Life, a first-hand journey from wartime London through the wilder parts of the 1960s and 1970s and beyond, could as easily be filed among the works of Richards' friend William Burroughs as alongside the memoirs of Bob Dylan or Eric Clapton. Life is told in Richards' offhand conversational rhythms through recording sessions and concerts, orgies and true romance, drugs and drug busts, family fights and domestic comforts, guitar tunings and adventures with Mick. Jagger writes most of the Rolling Stones lyrics, but in countless interviews, Richards has laid down his own take. He is candid and philosophical, jaded and tender, inspiring such books as What Would Keith Richards Do? And Stone Me, The Wit and Wisdom of Keith Richards. Quotes from over the decades. I'll just keep on rocking and hope for the best. I've never had a problem with drugs. I've had problems with the police, are mottos for his fans. Richards was born east of London in Dartford in 1943. The Nazis were dropping bombs at the time, his mother told him. He remembers landscapes of rubble, bombed-out streets, and beatings in the schoolyard. His father, a foreman at General Electric, was often away, but Richards was close to his mother and adored his grandfather, Gus Dupre, a bohemian and musician who harmonized with Keith on radio songs and taught him a few chords on the guitar. One of the great discoveries of working on Life was remembering his grandfather and how much, in his own way, he had to do with what I became, how much I learned from him. He was a choir boy, crushed at age 13 when his voice changed. He was a choir boy, crushed at age 13 when his voice changed and his talents were no longer needed. It still rankles, that humiliation. It still hasn't gone out, that fire. He writes, that's when I realized there's bigger bullies than just bullies. There's them, the authorities. Rock and roll, he has said, changed the world from black and white to technicolor. On the radio, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Chuck Berry were shouts from a party he was dying to join. In 1961, he was on a train and ran into Jagger, a childhood acquaintance from the cleaner side of town, Posh Town. Jagger was carrying rock and blues albums under his arms. A musical bond was born. Mick liked to sing. Keith could play. In 1962, the Rolling Stones were a working band. By 1963, a live sensation. and by the mid-1960s, international outlaws, the dark side of their friends and rivals, the Beatles. The end.